So I'm done, please, Owen.
Thanks, Zilly. I'm just aware Robert's going to run out of battery on his phone, so he's going to just jump right in and start presenting. So go ahead, Robert.
Thank you, Owen, and hello and good morning to everybody. I'm currently in Australia, and I'm working with very, very poor reception. Our internet provider has failed in my whole valley that I live in. Every time I speak and finish, I will say over. So over. Well.
Samaye kwenyeko huko ni sio mbaya njoma na haita muruhusu atumikishe video lakini juu ya connection. Mesa tena malizia sasa mwa kako ni sio utamuruhusu wacha tu kuonyesha foto juu muone taswira yake.
What I'd like to talk about today is how vegetable farmers and small growers can utilize biodiversity and sustainability to get maximum yield for their crops over.
Na yatapenda ongea leo ni kuangalia nini njoo walimeva ambao shafanya juu ongeze production na juu ongeze mboleo mashamba zao.
What I'm currently doing and working in Queensland, Australia, is with small market gardeners where they're growing crops such as cauliflower and beans, pumpkin, and small other crops, and using another vegetable crop or fruit crop to provide shade for their first primary crop, such as cauliflower. Over.
Na yeye kwenye iko anaishi Australia, yatumkana na community zinaishi fasi ya jua sana, fasi kuna kwa moto sana. Na wale wanakuwa walimai, wanatumikisha wanakuwa wanalima maharagi, wanalima manini malegime na angalia gisi aenjo ya kutumika wale walimai wanatumika kuangalia aenjo ile fasi kukisha kauka vile basa ongeza production yako ndio fasi kwa yatumika.
So if my battery dies, I'd like you to let Owen know what crops you're growing and let me know later on. But in the meantime, what I'm doing is working with these small market gardeners so that they grow their primary crops normally on the ground, and they're having problems with insects and caterpillars eating their crops. So what we're doing is encouraging small native birds to come in, forage through the crops and pick up the grubs and pests and control the pest crops. Over.
Kazi biko nafanya sasa ni kuangalia juu biko na shida. Balimeo ile fasi biko na shida ya umapanya, ile manyama pia kuharibisha mimea mshamba. Ndio biko na shida. Mesai kazi biko nafanya ni kuangalia au kutafuta solution ya njoo ya kueliminate ile manyama kuharibisha mimea yao mshamba.
One example that's working where I am in Western Queensland, where it's very hot, the farmers are growing grapevines for grapes that they can eat, not for wine, but for eating grapes. And the shading of the grapes over the top of the crops cools the crop, keeps the hot sun off the plants all the time, and also reduces water evaporation. However, small grubs come in and eat the cauliflowers and the like. So that's where they utilize the shade and the protection of the crops by encouraging small birds to eat the grubs and keep the crops safe or safer without the use of expensive insecticides. Over.
Solution parcia solution nilikuwa nafanya nilikuwa naangalia kupanda mimea na kupanda mayani ile manyama inakulaka. Kama kwa mfano kwa kupanda maharagi na huko na shida kwa mfano ya mafanya utaangalia kutosha mafanya mimea gani au mayani gani juu mafanya inakulaka. Maki sama mafanya inakia kule ile mimea mshamba inakula kwanza ile mayani kuitakia mali zile mayani na yote na maharagi leo iko na ota. Ndio maki solution kwanza ilikuwa nayo kuangalia shida manyama gani juu kwa kula mimea. Hii manyama chakula gani au mimea ingine gani juu inakulaka. Wanaipandia ile mayani inapita sana na hapana mimea. Useme manyama inakuya na kule ile mayani inaacha mimea yuko mshamba.
So what happens every autumn, the leaves start falling off the grapes. The grapes are harvested and all the leaves that fall on the ground are raked into the soil to make the soil more nutritious. And then the next crop is grown, a winter crop that needs more sun. So they rotate their crops summer to winter, summer to winter. And that increases biodiversity, but also encourages the small birds that have been nesting and of raising their young to also keep controlling the pests. And then in winter, they invite people to come into their garden and have a cup of tea and make some money from that way by having people sitting in their gardens and they talk about their gardens and how successful they are. So they get another stream of money and income by educating other gardeners. Over.
Na tena iko wasaidia wakati ya jua mingi zaidi. Sasa wanapanda ingine mamayani pamoja na mamimea yao. Na kuna saidia kupunguza jua mimea yao wanapanda. Tena wakati ya mvua tena mayani wanapanda kwanza saidia juu ya kuweka maji mdogo. Tunajua kutana kama biko wanaprofite. Kwa wakati ya kipo wanaprofite, kwa wakati ya mvua wanaprofite. Hata kile manyama yatakiwa kula mamimea yao mshamba tena wanaprofite juu ile mamanyama haitakula mamimea yao lakini nakula yengine manini mamayani kwa mshamba. Tunajua kutana kama humu ni mai yuko na profite ngambo yote mbili.
We still got you, Robert.
Sorry, my mistake. I had it turned off. What I'd like the audience to do is let me know and Owen know what crops you're growing, what sort of seasons you have, whether you have a hot summer, a dry summer, a wet winter, whatever it may be, let me know. And then I'll come back with some suitable crops that might be suitable for you and also some of the animals that might be able to help you. So, for example, in Australia, we have a bird that eats insects. It doesn't eat crops, and it'll go around and just eat all the bad insects and turn the soil over. So it's a good species that helps protect the animal, protect crops, and doesn't do any harm. I'd like to know what animals and birds you have in Uganda that maybe it'd be the same as what we have in Australia. Over.
Yangipenda ajue nishie tunakoga na klima ya job biko na klima ile kule kwako. Shia ya kwanza kupenda ajue mbele endelee hapa tuko na klima zaidi. Na miti gani juzi tuko nazo na nini na manyama gani juzi sasa kwanza shie sasa hivi zinatusumbuaka. Juu angalie juu kila au kule wanajua kama kila season inakuwa na mimea ndani ile season. Juu ni wakati ya jua kuna kama mimea inapanda wakati ya jua. Ni wakati ya mvua inakuwa na mimea inakuwa wakati ya mvua. Ni kila nyama itakuwa sasa hivi inaharibisha kama mimea mshamba. Nao ziko na solution yao. So njoo anapenda ajue kwanza hapa hiyo tuko na season gani na sasa vile maproblem gani sana ya manyama zitakuwa nasumbua kama mimea yetu mshamba.
Thank you for listening. So my last point I'd like you to think about is many of your families will have children. Children are very good observers of plants and animals, and it can be a learning education to just simply watch and look to see what animals are about, whether they're a small bird, whether a small mammal, perhaps, maybe a lizard even. Ask your children to look and observe what those animals are eating. And if you see that they're eating grubs, then that grub might be a beneficiary or it might be a problem. But if we don't look at what's happening in your crops, you don't know what your biggest risks are. So every farmer has different risks and different hazards. It could be lack of water, could be too much sun, too much wind, but you need to look and observe. So my suggestions tonight might be suitable for one farmer, but not another. So that's what I'd like you to ask yourself and let me know what your problems are. Is it not enough rain? Is it too windy, too hot, too much hot wind, too much cold wind? Or what those problems may be, then we can look at a solution that suits each person individually. So my example I used before works for the farmer I'm working with in Western Queensland. It needs to be considered in your circumstances and then work backwards to work out the solution for yourself. Over.
Yengine angeongezea kwa mfano kama mko na shida kwa mfano ule wanyama kwenda kula mimea mshamba, ya kufanya ni kutuma watoto maji wako na kuangalia. Kwa mfano kama ni panya inakula nini ndio panya anapenda kula. Nakiangalia ukipanya anapenda kula hiki na hiki na hiki na hiki na hiki na hiki. Ndio unavisia mshamba. Sasa unakia kula utajokuta ile chakula uko pale. Kama ni shida kwa mfano ule wanyama. Lakini kama kwa mfano ni shida ya kipwa, kama shida ya mvula, no kuko solution juu ya hili. Ndio maana tena anauliza shida yetu hapa hivi ni gani, ndio tuangalie solution ya hapa hivi ni nini. So the major problem here that we have is drought and termites, because after when the crops have already after flowering, we are always affected by termites and also very strong sunshine. So those are the major problems. Also strong winds, especially. So those are the three major problems that's affecting us.
Okay, so I just making sure I understand. So termites, hot winds, and drought, they're the three major problems. Is that correct? Over?
Yeah, those are the three major problems.
Well, what I may do is I'll take that on note, and I'll go and speak to my friends who have similar problems. Now, are your termites, are they flying termites or underground termites? Over.
So na asema hivi na sio tokea ama na woka ni hivi ama inazo tokea hii mashida yenyewe.
Hapa manake sisi haiko sababu huku unasikia kasi wakati ya mvua jua na waka unaomba na siku ya mvua, unasikia sisi siku ya jua kule na nyesha jua unapata. Sasa shi inakuwa inatukomplika tu hata tutamfasiria ni jua mara mingi ndio inatuia tuko mdesert.
Yeah, so Robert, there is a supplement here. There's another person who is trying to clarify the points of the major challenges that we are facing. And she said, here the problem is the problem of climate change. And here the times that people always expect to have rainfall, you find it's now becoming too hot. And the time that people expect sun, you find now people are getting rain. So find even the farmers here, they also fail to figure out which is the major problem, because you can find you planted because you expected rain, but you find it's now sunshine. And the time that you probably expected sunshine, now it's becoming very hot, very cold. So find now that challenge is also, so that's the major challenge that it's facing. So it's very hard to say that the major challenge is this, but no, in short, just that's the problem of climate change.
Okay, I understand that. So I will not talk anymore because I can't get an answer straight away. What I will do is I'll go back and talk to colleagues that I'm working with here and see if they have similar problems and solutions, because it is a common problem in many places. But where I'm currently working in Queensland, it's flooding every month. Every month we're getting record floods and washing away all our soils. So we have different problems in different locations. So thank you very much, and I'll get back to you with hopefully some possible solutions. Over.
Anasema kila fasi bangwa kuna shida hapo. Juu vile kwenye kuatumikia. Ndio kuna mashida ya migezi. Na kama ni mvula hivi unakuta migezi inashusha kila kitu. Mena kuna solution juu ya hiyo. Mena atenda ongea na wanatumikana hapo juu kuangalia solution hii. Juu nao iko na solution. Na wanajua siku nyingine tutakutana naye atakuwa na solution juu ya hii problem.
Are there any more comments or questions?
So, kama huko mweko na question yote juu kwake ataweza muuliza.
Nipenda tu niongeze juu ya Robert. Ile seminari ilitaka tunafundishaka kutasa yanalisema. Shida yenyewe na tireli wapitie solution yeko na tireli. Ni message tulibeba Rubondo. Tulifika Rubondo kule nani kote alaki. Na uliona shida ya Maligo. walikuwa toka mwanyi na kila kisha mashamba. Tuliese kuongea nao tukawapropose ile solution. Walikuwa wanapenda watie maharani na chakula masugu. Baole walikuwa kule ile na chakula vikufu. Leo hii grâce ya ile intervention yake alitupatia, walidevelope ile solution. Wakachimba mifereji ya kabambi. Wakazungurusha kule kulaji. Mpaka leo ile mariboko walikuwa nafika. Tunawaza kenu sasa kwengine seminaire kikuya, je crois que takia ngine solution takuwa na tirer na chetu kuna réfléchir solution gani juu kule juu nasumbua sana na balimaji wanaomba sana mais tu angalia kisha kudeveloper tajikaza tukolaborer na.
Yes, so Robert, thank you for your presentation, but we wanted just to appreciate you again following the previous presentation that you had, showing that the natural problems have natural solutions. So because we picked it from the presentation that you presented to us last time. So we also tried to use the same knowledge to solve some of the problems that we are having here. So we had one of the zones here, they were being affected by the hippopotamus. They could come from water and then they go and destroy their crops in the garden. So they tried to look for the solution for that, but they could not get it. Because here we have one organization, it's a national organization called Uganda Wildlife Authority, and it protects all the wildlife in Uganda, and one is not allowed to kill them. So people look for the ways of at least be putting poison so that when they come, they eat the poison and they die, but not to be against the police of the country. So following your presentation, people developed another method of fighting against this. And what they did, they could, now this time around, they are digging around their farms, very big holes and very big trenches where those hippopotamus cannot jump over and then they enter their farms. So, and that one has at least solved one of the problems that was affecting these farmers. So people appreciated your presentation and they used it to solve that problem which was affecting us.
That's interesting you say that, because the hippopotamus is a very, very big animal, very dangerous. I have seen similar,
very big.
Yeah, I have seen similar solutions in Papua New Guinea, where the farmers have built a wall, small wall around their properties to keep their neighbours out, but also to keep pigs out, and also to keep their pigs in. So it becomes the earthen wall, which also captures water, so they can water their gardens. So when there's a lot of water lying around, the water collects, and then they pump that into the ground to water their little crops. So yes, very hard. I mean, I also know a lot of white Australians would probably pay to come and look at a hippopotamus, pay good money to look at a hippopotamus, especially if they were not being killed. So that's a very good solution, but a lot of hard work to solve the problem of hippopotamus. I will stop talking now and take on board what you've told me and try and get a solution for you, or some possible solutions. And I'll look forward to talking with you again. Over.
Anasema afurahia juu betulifanyaka okay, alisemaka betupatia solution. Na iko ingine hata solution. Unajua kama ima hippopotamus, ima viboko vinapenda maji sana. Kwa ingine strategy yifanya unaleta iko sawa vile manini ya maji, iko sawa vile uko na mwangia mamimea huko pembeni. Ile saa zitakuwa toka maji, zitakuwa kutana kama ingine maji iko na mwangika pale vile. Zinapenda tu ziende na bakia pale vile ile maji yao iko ndani ya mwangikia. Kisha ile ingine fasi unajua kutana na touriste benye bayonaka ile kiboko. Sawa, afika pale vile nakutana kiboko iko sawa vile iko na jimwangia kwa ile mai, nao wanaenda hata mafoto nao wanakusaidia tena kukuingizia pesa. Wengine sio kwa ingine solution. Mais asma sikuta atarudia juu shida zao zenye ziko hapa hivi ataje kuna solution.
Wewe una question za kuuliza.
So please, Robert, there's another question for you.
Yes, please speak.
Twende tuangalie ule mapaji, watoto waangalie ule mapaji kuna kule ile mimea. Sasa kama mtu iko mbali na shamba, sasa kama mimi niko hapa Kiskafu, mimi ni maka ngoni. Sasa sina mwaidi kusaidia kwenda fanya observation kuangalia unafanya watu kaya niko mbele na shamba.
Sana nasema solution atakia anazo pay. Hilo ni kitu mzuri. Kwani mwanzo mzuri zinashika. Ndio ndio
Okay, please, Robert, here's the question.
Yes.
Because you're saying, yes, some of the problems you can find, we have like the pests which they enter the gardens and then they stray crops. But we find even here, our houses here, we have like rats. So these ones, we are afraid to manage them when we live with them. Now, how possible is this? Or is there any solution? Because we find some of their farms, they are very far from where people stay. So following them, identifying the food they eat, what they like, is a bit harder compared to the situation that people are living in, because we live with rats, but it's hard to control them when you leave them in the same house. So is there other strategy, or is there any other mechanism of looking for the ways of making follow-up, especially on the pests which affects the crops and they are a bit far from where people stay?
Okay, I'm going to have to think about that. So you're saying that rats are a major problem living in the house and also eating your crops. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, I'm saying because here we have a problem. People have rats inside their houses. And also you can find, we have some gardens which have the problem with the pests. Yep. So find people are failing to control the rats inside their houses. So it's a bit challenging and a bit hard to control the rats now or the pests now that they'll be in the garden. So is there another solution apart from making a follow-up on what the pests like, what the pests eat? So is there any other solution of controlling pests other than the solution that you brought of looking for what they always eat, what they always do?
Okay, that's another one I'm going to think about, and I'll get back to you. We currently have a similar problem in Western Queensland right now, but I'll have to get back to you and think about that, because I'll need to know more about the environment where you live, in particular some of the animals that live around there. So I'm going to do some research on that. You've given me 4 good things to ask and think about. Thank you. Over.
Nasema natafanya research juu atakuza kwa nyingine solution ya kutafuta nyingine manyama. Sasa vile nyama gani ndio nakulama panya. Unaangalia ile manyama utakia mnaitia. Mimi ndio natafanya research juu ile kisha atarudia niko na kitu. Okay, please. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. God bless, and I hope you're all well when I talk to you next month. Over.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. That's great. And Robert, as you can hear, has got a lot of real experience in the garden, on the farm, in the forest. So as you're able to do more observations of where you live, the more detailed those observations can become, the more information you can give him, the more potential for him to even remotely be able to provide some suggestions of a solution there. Or maybe it might be just his guidance to help you do the observations, as with the hippopotamus, will lead you to finding the solution that is there yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Owen. If I could just reiterate again, please get everybody, the children in particular, children have got very good eyes for observing small things. Make sure the children are involved with this process and get them, even at the school, to write down what they see. Because sometimes that solution can be a lot more simple than we think. But the more people watching, the more people observing, the better the solution. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Robert.
Robert iko na experience sana kwa vitu vya agroforestry na mobility. Juu ni domeni yake na ni kazi iko na mbona miaka mingi sana afanye ile kazi. Asema juu tupate solution juu ya hii. Maki anaomba research ya mingi. Ni wakubwa, ni wadogo, shie wote tumaki tukue na tutomole macho tuangalia shida gani juu zimeziko. Apewe kujua shida, ajua kama kila shida inaweza kuna solution. Na tukifanya observation ya mzuri. Yes, atakuya iko siri kama atakia na solution ya kutatua mashida yote hiyo shida tutamwambia.
Thank you, Robert. That's fantastic.